Hello. Welcome back. My name is PJ and I'm an alcoholic. Today we're going to get into the first chapter, Bill's story. Bill W. started Alcoholics Anonymous. Started it, I think about 90 years ago, right? You guys might have heard me mention before. I like the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's more vintage, I would say, than some of the other 12 step. The book of I don't know what they call it in Narcotics Anonymous. Good book too. Easier to read. I just gravitated to this. I like the history behind Alcoholics Anonymous. Part of that history, Bill W. started Alcoholics Anonymous. Here's Bill's story. Last week we got through the introduction, the doctor's opinion. We know the doctor's opinion on this. Doctor said, hey, without some sort of spiritual occurrence, not sure you're gonna make it. Just not sure if you're gonna make it. The guys I've seen come to the other side of this alcoholism thing had some sort of a spiritual experience through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I think that anybody can have said spiritual experience. So let's get into it. What was Bill's story? This guy started it. What happened to him? Can I relate? Maybe, maybe not. Look for stuff that you can relate, even if it's just a little bit. I've been in this recovery thing for a long time now, a decent amount of time, and I can see that there is commonalities between almost everybody who comes into the program, Bill W. included. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's test my reading skills on this vintage style writing. Chapter 1, Bill's story. War fever ran high in the New England town to which we new young officers from Plattsburgh were assigned, and we were flattered when the first citizens took us to their homes, making us feel heroic. Here was love, applause, war, moments sublime with intervals hilarious. I was part of life at last, and in the midst of this excitement I discovered liquor. I forgot the strong warnings and the prejudice of my people concerning the drink. In time, we sailed for over there. I was very lonely and I again turned to alcohol. Trying to turn to alcohol in excitement. I discovered liquor. Lonely, turn to alcohol, right? I drink because of this. I drink because of that. This turns out that I drink. We landed in England. I visited Winchester Cathedral. Much moved, I wandered outside. My attention was caught by a doggerel in an old tombstone. Here lies a Hampshire grenadier who caught his death drinking cold small beer. A good soldier is ne'er forgot, whether he died by musket or died by pot. Died by pot is the pot of alcohol. He died because he drank himself to death. Omnious warning, which I failed to hear, right? I think that we saw some warnings in our own lives, but I'm good. I'm different. 22 and a veteran of foreign wars, I went home at last. I fancied myself a leader, for had not the men of my battery given me a special token of appreciation, my talent for leadership, I imagined, would place me at the head of vast empires, which I would manage with the utmost assurance, right? I had some talents. I think I mentioned in one of my other videos, I don't know, a pretty smart guy. I had a master's degree in engineering and calculus, yada, yada, yada. I was really good at it all, but my head and my heart wasn't right. I had spiritual malady. Alcoholism ultimately got me. It got me. It didn't matter, but I had big ideas for my success that was going to come, right? Let's keep going. I took a night law course and obtained employment as an investigator for a surety company. The drive for my success was on. I'd proved to the world I was important. My work took me about Wall Street, and little by little I became interested in the market. Many people lost money, but some became very rich. Why not I? I studied economics and business as well as law. Potential alcoholic that I was, I nearly failed my law course. At one of the finals, I was too drunk to think aright. Though my drinking was not yet continuous, it disturbed my wife. We had long talks when I would still her forebodings by telling her that men of genius convince their best projects when drunk, that the most majestic construction of philosophic thought were so derived. Managing, right? When I'm under the influence, I have great ideas. I'm just terrible at executing them when I'm not under the influence, or bad at executing them when I am too, right? The situation here is that without the substances, without the alcohol, I'm restless, irritable, discontent when that is not in my system. And when I'm restless, irritable, discontent, I am not motivated, I'm scared, I'm in fear, I'm anxious. So this program has done for me what those few drinks always promised, right? So I can be creative, I can be motivated, I can be excited to execute plans and come up with plans without the alcohol in my system, which is awesome. So I can do cool things. I don't need alcohol in order to get me going about life, right? Can be that way without it. By the time I had completed the course, I knew the law was not for me. The inviting maelstrom of Wall Street had me in its grips. Business and financial leaders were my heroes. Out of this alloy of drink and speculation, I commenced to forge the weapon that would one day turn it in its flight like a boomerang that all but cut me to ribbons. It all came back and turned around and ended up taking them out. Living modestly, my wife and I saved $1,000. It went into certain securities, then cheap and rather unpopular. I rightly imagined that they would someday have a great rise. I failed to pursue my broker friends to send me out looking over factories and managements, but my wife and I decided to go anyways. He's getting after it, right? He's getting after it. He's motivated. I had developed the theory that most people lost money in stocks through ignorance of markets. I discovered many more reasons later on. We gave up our positions and off we roared on a motorcycle, the sidecar filled with tent, blankets, a change of clothes, and 3 volumes of financial reference service. Our friends thought a lunacy commission should be appointed. Their friends thought that they were crazy. Perhaps they were right. I had some success at speculation, so we had a little money, but we once worked on a farm for a month to avoid drawing on our small capital. That was the last honest manual labor on my part for many a day. We covered the whole eastern United States in a year. At the end of it, my reports to Wall Street procured me a position there and the use of a large expense account. The exercise of an option brought in more money, leaving us with a profit of several $1,000s for that year. For the next few years, fortune threw money and applause my way. I had arrived. My judgment ideas were followed by many to the tune of paper millions. The great boom of the late 20s was seething and swelling. Drink was taking an important and exhilarating part of my life. There was loud talk in the jazz places uptown. Everyone spent in thousands and chattered in millions. Scoffers could scoff and be damned. And I made a host of fair weather friends, right? So he was getting after it. He had some success. Everything's great. So, right, if I had this, I would be okay. Well, so he's got it. Let's see what happens. My drinking assumed more serious proportions, continuing all day and almost every night. So, like, this is important here, right? It's like his drinking didn't get better with the financial success. His drinking got worse with the financial success, right? So, don't blame your drinking on not having things, right? Don't blame your drinking on having things. It's you drink because you're an alcoholic. If you're an alcoholic, maybe you're listening. Maybe you are. Maybe you're not. It's for you. The remonstrances of my friends, just cause I said that I was gonna do it. Let's take a go. What do we got here? Boom. Let's see. Let's see. Remonstrance. A forcefully reproach protest. He shut his ears to any remonstrance. A forceful, reproachful protest. Aggressive disapproval. All right. Aggressive disapproval. Protest. So the aggressive disapproval of my friends terminated in a row, and I became a lone wolf, right? So his friends, so he's drinking every night. His friends are like, dude, you ain't coming. We don't want to hang out with you, man. Sorry, not sorry. There were many unhappy scenes in our sumptuous apartment. There had been no real infidelity. For loyalty to my wife, helped at times by extreme drunkenness, kept me out of those scrapes. All right, he didn't cheat on his wife, but it was because he was so inebriated he couldn't do it. In 1929, I contracted Gulf fever. We went at once to the country. My wife to applaud while I started to overtake Walter Hagen. So he's learning to golf. Maybe if I just pick up a hobby, I'll stop drinking. Liquor caught up with me much faster than I came up behind Walter. I began to be jittery in the morning. Golf permitted drinking every day and every night. It was fun to camera on around the exclusive course which had inspired such awe in me as a lad. I acquired the impeccable coat of tan once one sees upon the well-to-do. The local banker watched me whirl fat checks in and out of his till with assumed skepticism. So he's like still killing, even though his friends don't want to hang out with him, things like that. He's out there, he's golfing, he's got a tan, he's cashing checks, but he's drinking. He's drinking. Abruptly, in October 1929, hell broke loose on the New York Stock Exchange. After one of those days of inferno, I wobbled from a hotel bar to a broker's office. It was 8:00, 5 hours after the market closed. The ticker still chattered. I was staring at an inch of the tape which bore the inscription XYZ32. It had been at 52 that morning. I was finished, and so were my friends. The papers reported men jumping to the death from the towers of high finance. This disgusted me. I would not jump. I went back to the bar. My friends had dropped several million since 10 o'clock. So what? Today was another day. As I drank, the old fierce determination to win came back. I can relate to this in the sense of I was not suicidal because I could get another drink, because I could get some more substances, because I could still get high. I had no reason to commit suicide despite severe depression at times, because I got relief from alcohol, I got relief from drugs. Here it is, Bill W. getting some relief. As I drank, the old fierce determination to win came back. As I drank, I got emotional relief. I felt okay, and I'm back at it. Here I am. I'm back. I'm good to go. Don't know if you can relate. You're feeling not okay. You get that drink, you get that drug, and there you are. Yeah, I'm back. I'm good to go. You're right. Everything's going to be okay. I'm good. Next morning, I telephoned a friend in Montreal. He had plenty of money left, and I thought I had better go to Canada. By the following spring, we were living in our accustomed style. I felt like Napoleon returning from Elba. No St. Helena for me, but drinking caught up with me again, and my generous friend had let me go. This time we stayed broke, right? So here he is. He kind of just, kind of sounds like he's kind of couch surfing and maybe taking advantage of this guy. Not like hardcore, but just like selling him on his value, and his value just is not there without drinking. So We went to live with my wife's parents. I found a job, then lost it as a result of a brawl with a taxi driver. Mercifully, no one could guess that I was to have no real employment for 5 years. I think I was 4 years, or hardly drew a sober breath. Yeah, right. So for me, I think that this was maybe it was 5 years. Except no one could guess. I don't know. I think for me, you could guess. My wife began to work in a department store, coming home exhausted to find me drunk. I became an unwelcome hanger at the brokerage places. Liquor ceased to be a luxury; it became a necessity. Right. So here he's like, there he is. He's addicted. He's addicted. Right. It's caught up. It's got him. It's got him. Bathtub gin, 2 bottles a day, and often three. And when I say I mean so he's physically dependent now, more than addicted. Option three, got to be routine. Sometimes a small deal with a few $100s, and I would pay my bills at the bars and at delicatessens. Delicatessens, just for fun of it. We're gonna look that up. I think it's like another word for a bar. A store selling all right. A store selling cold cuts, cheese, and variety of salads was. So it's like a little grocery store, a little deli, like a deli convenience store. All right, there it is. Learn something new. This went on endlessly. And I began to waken very early in the morning, shaking violently. Wow, it's so bad. I hate that. I hate this. If you've been addicted to alcohol, it's not fun. A tumbler full of gin, followed by a half-dozen bottles of beer, would be required if I were eating breakfast. Nevertheless, I still thought I could control the situation, and there were periods of sobriety which renewed my wife's hope. Gradually, things got worse. The house was taken over by the mortgage holder. My mother-in-law died, and my wife and father-in-law became ill. Then I got a promising business opportunity. Stocks were at the low point of 1932, and I somehow formed a group to buy. I was to share generously in the profits. Then I went on a prodigious bender, and the chance vanished. Right. So just the opportunities just they fly away. We screw that stuff up. Alcoholics, like we screw that up. We have an opportunity and then we go. We just destroy it, right? And we always we always go on that bender right before like good things are about to happen. Remarkably or impressive, great in extent or size. Yeah, seems about right. I woke up to this. I woke up. This had to be stopped. I saw I could not take so much as one drink. I was through forever. I'm done. Before then, I'd written lots of sweet promises, but my wife happily observed that this time I meant business, and so did I. Right? So he's like serious this time. He's serious. But what's gonna happen? Dang. Shortly after I came home drunk. It happens. Like I swore off it, right? At the end, earlier in life, I had a little bit more control, but I swore off it. I had lost the power to not drink. Now, what do I do if I lose the power to drink? I have power over whether or not I wake up, I pray, I meditate, I help another alcoholic, I call another alcoholic, whatever it is. So I have control over certain things, and when I do those things, pray, meditate, help somebody else, work steps, go to a meeting, call a sponsor. When I have control over that stuff, so and I don't have control over whether or not I drink, I have to do the stuff that I do have control over, and it just so happens that I don't drink when I do that stuff. Shortly after I came home drunk, there had been no fight. Where had been my high result? I simply didn't know. It hadn't even come to mind. Someone had pushed a drink my way, and I had taken it up. Was I crazy? I began to wonder, for such an appalling lack of perspective seemed near being just that. Renewing my resolve, I tried again. Some time passed, and confidence began to be replaced by cocksureness. I could laugh at the gin mills. Now I had what it takes. One day I walked into a cafe to telephone. In no time, I was beating on the bar, asking myself how it happened. As the whiskey rose to my head, I told myself I'd manage better next time, but I might as well get good and drunk then. And I did. So he's failing, right? He's failing. He's like serious about this, but he keeps failing, and his like brain doesn't even allow him the opportunity. He doesn't have a first defense against. He doesn't have a defense against the first drink. This is rough. We have it easy if you're signed up. You're like, whatever. I'm gonna do this deal. What do I do? We have it easy. We have a. He laid it out later in this book what we're supposed to do, whereas here, he is gotta figure this out. Right? He's got to figure this out. And it was not a good prognosis, a good outlook for a guy such as him back in 1930s. The remorse, horror, and hopelessness of the next morning are unforgettable. The courage to do battle was not there. It's broken. My brain raced uncontrollably, and there was a terrible sense of impending calamity, right? Just a terrible sense of dread, brains racing, just feeling broken. I hardly dared cross the street lest I collapse and be run down by an early morning truck, for it was scarcely daylight. An all-night place supplied me with a dozen glasses of ale. My withering nerves were stilled at last. Right, so even all of this he's got going on, he goes and drinks some more, and he's all right. It's so rough that like I need the alcohol to be okay, and then I get the alcohol, and then I'm like, I'm okay, I'm good, I'm okay, right? So it's hard. It's hard, but through a program of recovery, you can be okay without the alcohol, without the drugs. So you have that relief that was given to you by alcohol without alcohol. A morning paper told me that the markets had gone to hell again. So had I. No, so had I. The market would recover, but I wouldn't. That was the hard thought. Could I kill myself? No, not now. Then a mental fog settled down. Gin would fix that. So 2 bottles and the oblivion. Oblivion. It's like, I know what oblivion means, but I'm struggling to, let me see, struggling to describe it. So let's do our thing. The state of being unaware, unconscious of what's happening, right? Yeah, so I'll take, because right, we desire this. This feels good to us because being aware of everything, especially our own situation, hurts. It's painful. So this oblivion thing is a desirable destination. The mind and body are marvelous mechanisms, for mine endured this agony for 2 more years. Sometimes I stole from my wife's slender purse when the morning terror and madness were on me, right? If you are withdrawing, you got to do what you got to do. That's what it feels like. You feel like you're going to die. You feel like you're going to die. You think you're going to die if you've been in alcohol withdrawal, right? You got to do what you got to do. Again, I swayed dizzily before an open window or the medicine cabinet where there was poison, cursing myself for a weakling. There were flights from city to country and back as my wife and I sought escape. So he tried to change his geographic location. Then came the night when the physical and mental torture was so hellish I feared I'd burst through my window sash and all. Somehow I managed to drag my mattress to a lower floor lest I suddenly leap. A doctor came. A doctor came with a heavy sedative, right? Helped them, helped him, help settle his nerves. Detox medications, Ativan, Valium, uh, Librium, phenobarbital, right? Heavy sedatives. So he was all right. Like, okay, this helped, this helped, this helped. The next day, the next day found me drinking both gin and sedative. Nice, nice, getting after it. This combination soon landed me on the rocks. People feared for my sanity. So did I. I could eat little or nothing when drinking, and I was 40 pounds underweight. He just kept going. Things are getting bad for him. Things are getting bad, but he's still going, still going. That's what we do. My brother-in-law is a physician, and through his kindness and that of my mother, I was placed in a nationally known hospital for the mental and physical rehabilitation of alcoholics. Under the so-called belladonna treatment, my brain cleared. What is this? What is this? What is this? Blasphemy. It's a potion. So a doctor now it's cure for alcoholism and drug addiction. 5 days. It's a plant. It's a drink. All right, let's keep it going. Let's not get distracted here. But it's kind of neat. Science has not yet found a solution. They have not. Try to get this back to the dictionary. All right. Under the so-called belladonna treatment, my brain cleared. Hydrotherapy and mild exercise helped much. Best of all, I met a kind doctor who explained that through all right. So his brain cleared with the belladonna treatment. Hydrotherapy and mild exercise helped much. Best of all, I met a kind doctor who explained that though certainly selfish and foolish, I had been seriously ill bodily and mentally, right? So kind of admitting this is more than just a character defect. It relieved me somewhat to learn that in alcoholics, the will is amazingly weakened when it comes to combating liquor, though it often remains strong in other respects. My incredible behavior in the face of a desperate desire to stop was explained. Understanding myself now, I fared forth in high hope. For 3 or 4 months, the goose hung high. I went to town regularly and even made a little money. Surely this was the answer: self-knowledge. Wah, wah, wah. Self-knowledge. Is that what's that one? Smart recovery. Say less. But it was not, for the frightful day came when I drank once more. The curve of my declining moral and bodily health fell off like a ski jump. At a time After a time, I returned to the hospital. Here it is, fell off like a ski jump. It got worse. His disease is out there doing push-ups, they say, right? 3 4 months over, and when he went back to drinking, his health and his mentality, his mental state fell off like a ski jump. My weary and despairing wife was informed that it would all end with heart failure during delirium tremens. This is withdrawal. This is hardcore withdrawal, where I would develop a wet brain perhaps within a year. She would soon have to give me over to the undertaker or the asylum. Doctors are saying he's done. He's going to die from this or become permanently insane or disabled. Wet brain is like a brain disability from drinking too much alcohol. They did not need to tell me. I knew and almost welcomed the idea. It was a devastating blow to my pride. I, who had thought so well of myself and my abilities and my capacity to surmount obstacles, was cornered at last. Now I was to plunge into the dark, joining that endless procession of sots who had gone on before. And if you remember that guy's doggerel on the tombstone, this is what he's thinking, is that he's done. It's fine. He's over it. I surrendered to the idea that I was going to die an alcoholic long before I surrendered to a program recovery. I can relate to this. I know what it's like. Just over it. I'm just done. I'm defeated. I cannot go on. Thought of my poor wife. There had been much happiness after all. What I would not give to make amends, but that was over now. No words can tell of the loneliness and despair I found in that bitter morass of self-pity. Right? This feels rough. Self-pity, feeling sorry for myself. Quicksand stretched around me in all directions. I had met my match and I had been overwhelmed. Alcohol was my master. So he's admitting to his innermost self. He's admitting to his innermost self that he's an alcoholic. Trembling, I stepped from the hospital a broken man. Fear sobered me for a bit. Then came the insidious insanity of that first drink. And on Armistice Day, 1934, I was off again. Insidious. Can I kind of piece together what some of this means, but insidious, proceeding in a gradual, subtle way, but with harmful effects. Treacherous, crafty. So this like crafty insanity, it's cunning, grappling power. It sneaks up. Proceeding in a gradual, subtle way, but with harmful effects. So he's off again. Everyone became resigned to the certainty that I would have to be shut up somewhere or would stumble along to a miserable end. How dark is it before the dawn? In reality, that was the beginning of my last debauch. His last go of things, his last mess. I was soon to be capitulated into what I like to call the fourth dimension of existence, right? So capitulated means launched. It means launched. He's catapulted. Oh, not capitulated. Catapulted. He's catapulted. That's what it means, launched. Catapulted into what I call the fourth dimension of existence. I was to know happiness, peace, and usefulness in a way of life that is incredibly more wonderful as time passes. So little did he know that this awesome way of life, awesome inner peace, serenity, happiness was on its way. It's headed his way. Near the end of that bleak November, I sat drinking in my kitchen with a certain satisfaction. I reflected that there was enough gin concealed about the house to carry me through that night and the next day. My wife was at work. I wondered whether I dare hide a full bottle of gin near the head of our bed. I would need it before daylight. So he's hiding it. He's got it everywhere. You know, it's typical stuff. I need my stuff. I need it nearby. I need to have access to it because I just need it. I need it to be okay. My musing was interrupted by the telephone. Right, his imagination, his thinking. The cheery voice, an old friend, asked if he might stop by. Asked if he might come over. He was sober. What? What? He was sober. It was years since I could remember his coming to New York in that condition. I was amazed. Rumor had it that he had been committed for alcoholic insanity. I wonder how he escaped. Of course he would have dinner, and then I could drink openly with him. Unmindful of his welfare, I thought only of recapturing the spirit of other days. There was that time when we had chartered an airplane to complete. We had chartered an airplane to complete a jag, right? So he wants to recapture the old spirit of of what it felt like, and everything in my experience, trying to capture the old experience, the old spirit, ended up ordering something off of wish.com. Like, I remembered the party, I remembered the good times, let's do it again. But when I do it again, it was terribly degraded in quality and it wasn't good. But this is what he's after, is try to recapture that fun moments of drinking with a buddy. So his coming was an oasis in the dreary desert of futility. And basically his coming was a break from everything that was his shit life. The very thing an oasis. Drinkers are like that. The door opened and he stood there, fresh-skinned and glowing. He had that vibrance. He was spiritually recharged. He had a connection, something greater. There was something about his eyes. He was inexplicably different. What happened? So Bill can see this guy has recovered. What's going on? This guy has vibrance. What happened? How did he get here? I pushed a drink across the table and he refused it. Disappointed but curious, I wondered what had got into the fellow. He wasn't himself. Things had changed. Come on, what's this all about? I queried. He looked straight at me, simply but smilingly. He said, I've got religion. I was aghast. So that was it. Last summer, an alcoholic crackpot. Now I suspected a little cracked about religion. He had the starry-eyed look. Yes, the old boy was on fire, all right. But bless his heart, let him rant. Besides, my gin will last longer than his preaching is going to. Right? So anyways, let him rant. Religion. Yeah, my gin will last longer than this guy. But he did no ranting. In a matter-of-fact way, he told how two men had appeared in court persuading the judge to suspend his commitment. They had told of a simple religious idea and a practical program of action. That was 2 months ago, and the result was self-evident. It worked. He had come to pass his experience along to me, if I cared to have it, right? So this is kind of the beginning idea of this thing. Again, a spiritual experience is what helps a lot of people out of this. And these two guys, who's more religion formatted, came and gave this guy, his friend, a spiritual experience. But W said, I was shocked but interested. Certainly I was interested. I had to be, for I was hopeless. He talked for hours. Childhood memories rose before me. I could almost hear the sound of the preacher's voice as I sat on still Sundays way over there on the hillside. There was that proffered temperance pledge I never signed. My grandfather's good-natured contempt of some church folk and their doings. His insistence that the spheres really had their music. but his denial of the preacher's right to tell him how he must listen, his fearlessness as he spoke of these things just before he died. These recollections welled up from the past. They made me swallow hard. It was kind of hard to understand there, but I'm thinking that he's like reflecting on his grandpa's good-natured contempt of religion and spirituality and not having fear. His fearlessness as he spoke before he died, right? Fear is a big part of our alcoholism. People say your drinking is fueled by 1,000 forms of fear. When you do your fourth step, you're going to make a fears list, and we'll look for solution for those fears. And a lot of this solution is a spiritual solution. The wartime day in old Winchester Cathedral came back again. I'd always believed in a power greater than myself. I had often pondered these things. I was not an atheist. Few people really are, for that means blind faith in this strange proposition that the universe originated in a cipher and aimlessly rushes nowhere. My intellectual heroes, the chemists, the astronomers, even the evolutionists, suggest vast laws and forces at work. Despite contrary indications, I had little doubt that a mighty purpose and rhythm underlay it all. How could there be so much of precise and immutable law and no intelligence? I simply had to believe in a spirit of the universe who knew neither time nor limitation, but that was as far as I had gone. This actually sounds like he had gone reasonably far. This is plenty of an idea of a power greater than oneself to get by in Alcoholics Anonymous. If you have less than that, don't worry. Keep an open mind to it. Just keep an open mind is all you need to succeed. An open mind, willingness to keep an open mind, willingness to take suggestions is all you need to succeed in this program. Yes, this is a good paragraph right here. You pondered these things, right? All you have to do is ponder it. Keep an open mind. Keep an open mind to maybe that there's more going on here than just chance, that intelligence rose from nothing. With the ministers and the world's religions, I parted right there. When they talked of a God personal to me who was love, superhuman strength, and direction, I became irritated and my mind snapped shut against such a theory. So yeah, like, right, I personally didn't get feel goods in religion, in Sunday Mass, and Wednesday. I didn't get feel goods in, I was raised, my grandparents were Catholic, and that's what we did. And so I had to just keep an open mind to anything. I researched outside the box spiritual stuff when I got sober, and I found something that resonated with me, loosely resonated with me, and I kept an open mind to it. To Christ, I conceded the certainty of a great man, not too closely followed by those who claimed him. So to Christ, I conceded the certainty of a great man. Same here, right? I wear a "What Would Jesus Do" bracelet, even though I'm not particularly Christian, Catholic, or anything like that, but I wear a "What Would Jesus Do" bracelet because step 3, I turn my will over. My will, I look at that as my actions. And if I filter my actions through this idea of what would Jesus do, because he's a great man, right? Like, but I think he's more than that too. But very simply, it's just like, what would a good person do in this situation? I turn my will over. What would a good person do? That's what I do. What would Jesus do bracelet helps me do that. Practice the principles, all my affairs, day in and day out, not just on Tuesdays. And guess what? Having done that, I don't have cravings anymore. I rarely have depression, rarely have anxiety. All just because I turn my will over and put what would Jesus do? What would a good person do? Filter on everything. Yeah, right. To Christ consider a great man, not too closely followed by those who claim. He's basically saying, like, yeah, Christ is a solid dude, but like, look at you guys. You're not even doing what would Jesus do. So he's kind of making a joke of it there. His moral teachings most excellent, right? For myself, I had adopted those parts which seemed convenient and not too difficult. The rest I regarded, right? Yeah. So, kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It's not practicing the principles in all your affairs. The war which had been fought, the burnings and chicanery that religious dispute had facilitated made me sick. The wars which had been fought, the religious wars, right? I honestly doubted whether, on balance, the religions of mankind had done any good. Judging from what I'd seen in Europe, and since the power of God in human affairs was negligible, the brotherhood of man a grim jest. If there was a devil, he seemed the boss universal, and he certainly had me, right? So, right, it's hard. It's hard for a lot of people to get on board with this program and myself. A lot of people got resentments against the creator, the God, whatever. Life gets hard, but it's that hardness, it's that battle that made me who I am today, that makes me be able to enjoy life as much as I can now. But my friend sat before me and he made the point blank declaration that God had done for him what he could not do for himself. This is an important statement right here. God helped him get sober. God did a lot of things for me that I couldn't do for myself. If I lose a job that's not ultimately going to be what makes me happy for the rest of my life, but I was too scared to quit, God did for me what I couldn't do for myself. God had a girl break up with me. She was not the right one for me forever and ever, happily ever after. I wasn't going to break up with her. I thought that she was this shit. Like, I was like, yeah, this is the one. I'm never going to love anybody else. But God could tell that she was not right for me. So he had her leave me. And thank God that he helped me out there. He did for me what I couldn't do for myself. He also here, right? I couldn't quit drinking. I got some assistance in that area from him too. His human will had faded. This other guy quit drinking. His human will had faded. Doctors had pronounced him incurable. Society was about to lock him up. Like myself, he had admitted complete defeat. Then he had, in effect, been raised from the dead, suddenly taken from the scrap heap to a level of life better than the best he had ever known. So just know, complete defeat transitioned into, so it was taken from a scrap heap to a level of life better than the best he ever known. This is possible for you, for me. Do what we do and you'll get what we get. Had this power originated in him? Obviously it had not, right? There had been no more power in him than there was in me at that minute. And this was none at all. Just powerless, right? That floored me. It began to look as though religious people were right after all. So this is important, right? Like that. I used to look at people who had religion, like who had faith more than religion. And there they go, happy about their life. They've got their wife, they've got their kids, yada yada. Oh yay, we're happy. And I look at them and I'd be like, aren't you gonna feel stupid when you find out that it's all a scam? And there I go, being miserable, drinking, using drugs, feeling terrible, being depressed and anxious and grimy and down in the gutter. And there they go, happy, joyous, and free. And I'm like, you're gonna feel stupid when you find out it's all a scam, right? Fast forward, right? Fast forward. And I was so sick of being miserable that I said, you know what? Maybe there's something right that they're doing over there. Maybe something they're doing actually has some meaning to it. Turns out that when I started practicing some of those principles in my life on a daily basis, I was able to get some of that happiness and freedom too. Here was something at work in a human heart which has done the impossible. My ideas about miracles were drastically revised right then. Never mind the musty past. Here sat a miracle directly across the kitchen table. He shouted great tidings right now. So I believe that this alcoholism thing is a spiritual malady and it needs a spiritual solution. When you apply a solution that works to a problem, the problem solves. Otherwise, alcoholism is a disease and there's a spiritual solution for diseases. Some people believe that there is. Irregardless of all of that, there's a solution for my alcoholism found in this process. I saw that my friend was much more than inwardly reorganized. He was on a different footing. His roots grasped new soil. So to be reduced down to nothing and starting fresh is an amazing place to be for an alcoholic, for an addict. Everything changes, and that's okay. That's good. I knew 99% of what I had going on needed to be cleaned out, pushed to the side, and allow a new footing to be placed. A solid foundation in which then I could take and I could go put new things on, new character traits, new adventures, new jobs, new relationships. Solid footing, clear off the slate, start fresh, get a new foundation in, and then start stacking stuff on top of it. Despite the living example of my friend, there remained in me the vestiges of my old prejudice, right? Despite the living example, so like he still was doubtful. The word God still aroused a certain antipathy. The word God still aroused a certain antipathy. Yeah, I get it. I get it. For a long time, I'd say the universe. Now I say God just because it's an easier word. It's all the same thing to me. When the thought was expressed that there might be a God personal to me, this feeling was intensified. I didn't like the idea. I could go for such concepts as creative intelligence. Well, this is a God. This is a God. Universal mind is spirit or nature. That's a God. But I revisited the thought of a Tsar of the heavens. Oh, that could be a God. Whatever. It's just a power greater than yourself. All of this stuff fits. However loving his sway might be, I have since talked with scores of men who felt the same way. Yeah, don't overthink that. If you're open-minded to there being universal intelligence, you are plenty far along. Some people use the group of drunks, God. Some people use the fellowship, right, as their higher power, and it works. My friend suggested what then seemed like a novel idea. He said, "Why don't you choose your own conception of God?" Exactly. That's kind of what I just said. Well, it's what I was hinting at. It's where I was going. The statement hit me hard. It melted the icy intellectual mountain in whose shadow I had lived and shivered many years. I stood in the sunlight at last, right? So just keep an open mind to this, right? And then the door will open up. The hoop is very wide in which you have to jump through. It was only a matter of being willing to believe in a power greater than myself. Nothing more was required of me to make my beginning. I think we can highlight it twice. Can we do 3 times? Look at that. It was only a matter of being willing to believe in a power greater than myself. Nothing more was required of me to make my beginning. I saw that growth could start from that point. Upon a foundation of complete willingness, I might build what I saw in my friend. Would I have it? Of course I would. Thus, I was convinced that God is concerned with us humans when we want him enough. At long last, I saw, I felt, I believed. Scales of pride and prejudice fell from my eyes. A new world came into view. The real significance scales of pride and prejudice fell from my eyes, right? So just like put that aside. If you're desperate enough, put it aside. Be open minded to some of this stuff. Just be open minded to it. If you want a better life, if you're still like, nah, I don't need it. Well, right, that's okay too. The real significance of my experience in the cathedral burst upon me. For a brief moment, I had needed and wanted God. There had been a humble willingness to have Him with me, and He came. But soon the sense of His presence had been blotted out by worldly clamors, most of those within myself, and so it had been ever since. How blind I had been. At the hospital, I was separated from alcohol for the last time. Treatment seemed wise, for I showed signs of delirium tremens, real bad alcohol withdrawal. It's like going to detox. Then I humbly offered myself to God, and then I understood Him to do with me as He would. I placed myself unreservedly under His care and direction. So this is an interesting situation. So I had let go of all these ideas I had of maybe maybe I'm never gonna have the white picket fence. Maybe I'm never gonna have a good girlfriend. Maybe I'm never gonna have financial success. Maybe I'm never gonna have this. Maybe I'm never gonna have that. Oh, like whatever. I'm just gonna try to enjoy the now, be helpful, and try to enjoy what I got, because all these giant plans never worked out historically. It didn't seem like it was likely to happen. So I think maybe I don't know, maybe I'm gonna end up as a Buddhist monk on top of a hill somewhere. I don't know, but I was willing to just be open-minded and go with the flow, right? So to do with me as He would. So this is like, okay, I'm surrendered. Let me know what's next. Let me know. Just guide me in my direction. So I placed myself under someone else's care besides my own. When I'm driving the car, we're guaranteed wrecked. Just let someone else drive for a while is what I thought to myself. I admitted for the first time that of myself I was nothing, and that without Him I was lost. I admitted myself I was nothing. I knew that for a long time. I guess I just didn't know what to find to be unlost. I ruthlessly faced my sins and became willing to have my newfound friend take them away, root and branch. I have not had a drink since. So this he's like doing some stuff. I ruthlessly faced my sins, became willing to have my newfound friend take them away, root and branch. So he's starting to get into a little bit of the formulation of what the steps were. My schoolmate visited me, and I fully acquainted him with my problems and deficiencies, right? So we made a list. So this is the steps, right? This is the steps. So this is the third step right here. It's the third step. It mirrors the third step prayer, right? Before we admitted that we were alcoholic, you saw that in there too. I talked about that, right? Can't believe that. Admitted that we were powerless over alcohol, lives becoming manageable. That's in here. Came to believe a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. That's mirrored in here. Just made the decision to turn my will, right? We talked about that. My life over to care of God as we understand Him. So that I offered myself to God, and then I understood Him to do with me as He would. I placed myself under His care. I'm turning my will and my life over. My schoolmate visiting, I fully acquainted him with my problems and my deficiencies, right? So here we're doing a moral inventory. We made a list of people I had hurt or toward whom I felt resentment. So this is like the resentment list. Also, he's getting into his 8th step amends list. I expressed my entire willingness to approach these individuals, admitting my wrongs, which was the 8th step, transferring to the 9th. Never was I to be critical of them. I was to write all such matters that uttermost most of my ability. So was to write. And this is amends. It's not saying sorry. It's to make right. I was to test my thinking by the new God consciousness within. Right. Sought to maintain conscious contact with a power greater than myself through prayer and meditation. Common sense would thus become uncommon sense. I was to sit quietly and when in doubt, asking only for direction and strength to meet my problems as He would have me. Take these suggestions. Sit quietly when you're in doubt. Ask Throw it out there to the universe. Which direction should I go? Ask for some strength to get through your problems. Not selfishly, though. Never was I to pray for myself. Yeah, so not selfishly, right? Never was I to pray for myself except as my request bore on my usefulness to others. Then only might I expect to receive. So I, struggling with some depression, struggling with some anxiety, I would say, hey, you, struggling with some depression, anxiety this morning. If I use that energy, so if I'm depressed and anxious, I'm not as capable of helping other people. So if you can help me with my depression, my anxiety, I'm gonna use that extra energy I have from that. I'm gonna go help some people. So I went about my day with the intention of I'm gonna go help some people, and my depression and anxiety went away. Look at that, right? So I wasn't praying for selfish means. Then only might I expect to receive, but that would be in great measure. So don't pray for selfish means. Use it if you pray for so that you can be more helpful to others, things work out. My friend promised when these things were done, I would enter upon a new relationship with my Creator, that I would have the elements of a way of living which answered all my problems. Belief in the power of God, plus enough willingness, honesty, and humility to establish and maintain the new order of things were essential requirements. My friend promised when these things were done, I would enter upon a new relationship with my Creator, and that I would have the elements of a new way of living, which answered all my problems. I'd have the elements of a new way of living, which answered all my problems. This is basically saying I have all the tools, I have the right strategy to navigate any such problems that come my way. Simple but not easy. A price had to be paid. It meant destruction of all self-centeredness. So if you're done enough with alcohol, drugs, if you're done having cravings, if you're done being depressed, if you're done being anxious, this is a small price, a small trade. To stop being self-centered, to make the focus of your life helping others. All you have to do is be kind, loving, patient, tolerant, be of service to others, and I don't have to have cravings anymore. I don't have to have obsession over alcohol. I don't have to have deep, dark despair, incomprehensible demoralization anymore. All I have to do is be kind, love, patient, tolerant, of service to others, and I don't have that shit in my life anymore. I'm like, all right, surrendered, sign me up. I'll do it. That's fine. It's not what I had in mind, but I will do that. I will do that if I don't have to have cravings anymore, if I don't have to have depression, yada, yada, yada. It's a worthwhile trade. Give it a go. I must turn in all things to the Father of light who presides over me, right? Turn it over to God. Turn my life over. You get a bad health diagnosis, turn it over to God. If say, well, whatever happens, man, I believe that everything is gonna be okay in your definition of okay, in God's definition of okay, not my definition, and everything is going to be okay. You can do it. Start off with smaller stuff. If the girl leaves you, turn it over to God and say, hey, thanks, man. For whatever reason, you could see into the future and saw this wasn't good, so thanks for doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. If even your alcoholism, God's put you in this place for a reason. Now here you are, you've gone through it. Now you are uniquely useful to go help other people going through it. So there was a method to the madness, to the whole shit. Everything bad that happened to you in life, everything seemingly bad, had method to the madness, and it was all perfectly placed to bring you to the unique spot you are now, where you can have a happy life, being helpful, being of service to other people, being a part of community, living a way of life in which we should have been living the whole time, but we weren't. These were revolutionary, drastic proposals, but the moment I fully accepted them, the effect was electric. There was a sense of victory followed by such a peace and serenity I had never known. There was an utter confidence. I felt lifted up as though the great clean wind of a mountaintop blew through and through. God comes to most men gradually, but his impact on me was sudden and profound. Right? This doesn't have to happen overnight, but if you take the suggestions, you practice the program of recovery, it will come your way. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe anything. Just do the suggestions, keep an open mind, give it some time, and you'll see. For a moment, I was alarmed and called my friend, the doctor, and to ask if I were still sane. He listened in wonder as I talked. Finally, he shook his head, saying, "Something has happened to you. I don't understand, but you had better hang on to it. Anything is better than the way you were." And he's like, "I don't know what's going on with you, man, but you know what? You were so screwed before that just hang on to this because it's better than it was before." The good doctor now sees many men who have had such experiences. He knows that they are real, right? Same as I have. I've seen many men and women have these experiences. It's the real deal. It can happen for you. While I lay in the hospital, the thought came that there were thousands of hopeless alcoholics who might be glad to have what I have been so freely given. Perhaps I could help some of them. Then in turn might work with others. They in turn might work with others. So this is step 12. Having had a spiritual awakening, something that carried this message to other alcoholics, right? Yeah, that's what he's doing. He's going and he's working with other guys and he's sharing what was so freely given to him. My friend had emphasized the absolute necessity of demonstrating these principles in all my affairs. You hear me say, I practice these principles in all my affairs. Like I don't just do it on Tuesday. I don't just do it on weekends, weekdays, all my affairs. I wake up and I do this. I practice patience, love, honesty, service, kindness, integrity, showing up for work on time, working while I'm at work, trying to help someone's day go better, staying out of self. Particularly was it imperative to work with others as he worked with me. Again, step 12. Faith without works is dead, he said. It doesn't matter what you have faith in, what you believe in, you have to be living it. You have to be living it. And how appallingly true for the alcoholic. We have to be living this stuff. If an alcoholic failed to perfect and enlarge his spiritual life through the work and sacrifice for others, he could not survive the certain trials and low spots ahead. If he did not work, he would surely drink again, and if he drank, he would surely die. Then faith would be dead indeed. With us, it is just like that. You have to. Being of service, you have to be of service. You have to, when all else fails, work with another alcoholic. Be of service. Practice these principles in all your affairs. Be of service. Magical life will come your way. My wife and I abandoned ourselves with enthusiasm to the idea of helping other alcoholics to a solution of their problems. It was fortunate for my old business associates, though my old business associates remained skeptical for a year and a half, during which I found little work, right? Nobody trusted him yet, right? Nobody trusted him yet, but that's okay. I was not too well at the time, and I was plagued by waves of self-pity and resentment. So this is not just like it's not like magic all the time, right? But the idea is that less and less that you get to a plane in which you can exist with contentment and some serenity and be okay. This sometimes nearly drove me back to drink, but I soon found that when all other measures failed, work with another alcoholic would save the day. So when all else fails, work with another alcoholic. Many times I have gone to my old hospital in despair. On talking to a man there, I'd be amazingly lifted up and set on my feet. It is a design for living that works in rough going. Try it sometime. You're feeling down and out, go help another alcoholic. Go help someone who needs help, right? Try it. Try it, try it, try it. These are principles that I practice in my life. And when I do these things, I'm lifted up. I'm brought out of my self-pity. I'm brought out of my depression. I'm brought out of my anxiety. I do believe the anxiety and depression are self-centered in nature. When I'm depressed, when I'm anxious, it's like me, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, my future, my past, my present, my blah blah blah. I'm depressed, I'm anxious, right? And I say that with empathy. I am someone who had a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, but when I'm feeling depressed, when I'm feeling anxious, current day, when I look at it as self-centeredness, I am able to get out of it. I'm able to go help somebody else and I'm able to feel better, which is the ultimate goal, is that I want to feel better. Sometimes I enjoy sitting in my self-pity. I'm allowed to do that if I want, but if I want out of it, get out of self and I go help somebody. When commenced to make many friends, when commenced to make many fast friends, and a fellowship has grown up among us. We commenced to make many fast friends, and a fellowship has grown up among us, of which is wonderfully, which it is a wonderful thing to feel a part of. The joy of living we rarely have, even under pressure and difficulty. The joy of living we really have, even under the pressure and difficulty. So we have joy despite pressure and difficulty in our lives. I have seen hundreds of families set their feet in the path that really goes somewhere, have seen the most impossible domestic situations rightened, feuds and bitterness of all sorts wiped out. So I've seen so much intense things that did not seem like they have a solution. I've seen so much straighten itself out simply through being willing to work this program and practicing these principles in all my affairs, all of whoever's affairs who's got these issues. I've seen men come out of asylums and resume a vital place in the lives of their families and communities. Business and professional men have regained their standing. There is scarcely any form of trouble and misery which has not been overcome among us. This is fact. In one Western city and its environs, in one Western city and its environs, there are 1,000 of us and our families. I think that means like it's suburbs. 1,000 people, that's where he started. We met frequently so that newcomers may find the fellowship they seek. And these informational gatherings, one may often see from 50 to 200 persons. We are growing in numbers and power. In 2006, AA is comprised over 106,000 groups. If you go 10 people per group, that's 1 million. An alcoholic in his cups is an unlovely creature. Our struggles with them are various, strenuous, comic, and tragic. One poor chap committed suicide in my home. He could not or would not see our way of life. There is, however, a vast amount of fun about it all. I suppose some would be shocked at our seeming worldliness and levity. It means like floatingness, our light-hearted nature. We're able to have fun. But just underneath there is a deadly earnestness. Faith has to work 24 hours in a day. Faith has to work 24 hours a day in and through us, or we perish. You have to change your life. You have to change your life. You can't just change some things. You have to change the whole get down, but don't be turned off by that. On the other side of that is a really, really good life. Most of us feel we need to look no further for utopia. We have it with us right here and now. Each day of my friend's simple talk in our kitchen Each day, my friend's simple talk in our kitchen multiplies itself in a widening circle of peace on earth and goodwill to men. Boom. Most of us need to look no further to find utopia. So, that is Bill's story. So much laid out here. The steps of Alcoholics Anonymous peppered in there. It doesn't tell you that's what they are, but here they are. Listen to this. You got a little bit of insight into how he applied this stuff to his life. He later in the book, he made steps out of it so we could follow it. Get after it. Get after it. You, me, despite how hopeless you are, despite how depressed you are, despite how broken you are, you make these adjustments and everything is going to be okay. Everything is going to be more than okay. Everything is going to be good. There will be challenges. You'll look at those challenges through a different perspective, a perspective in a way you can welcome those challenges as opportunities for growth. There is a good life waiting for you. There's an opportunity for you to be of service and help other people get that good life. And when you do that, you are nourished by the universe. When you are helping the surrounding community function happy and healthy as possible, the universe gives you all sorts of blessings. You will start glowing. You will have vibrance. You will have energy. You will feel the thrive in life rather than the trudging along, barely getting by, wishing you were dead. Night and day difference, all right here, available for you in a program of recovery. It's simple, no need to reinvent the wheel. It's all right here for you. If you're sick of that shit, if you're sick of addiction and sick of alcoholism, jump in, get a sponsor, get through this stuff, and then get back to a life that you haven't had since you were 4, 5, 6 years old. Happy, joyous, and free. Here it is. Revert back to that childlike state of happiness through the process that's outlined in this book. If you made it this far, an hour and 16 minutes through this, I commend you. That's all I got for you for this chapter. Likely for this week. We'll see what happens. Have a good rest of your weekend. Stay safe. Don't drink yourself to death. Don't drug yourself to death. Give yourself an opportunity. Work the steps, get some sponsees. And if at that point you're like, nah, I'm good, hey, that's all right. Otherwise, you might be surprised by the results that you get from this. Same as Bill W., same as myself, same as countless others. Have a good rest of your weekend. Stay safe.